You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
That'll be a script. Script reads me.
Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about trouble and trying to get responsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories that aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 And we trade actors, motherfucker.
Hey, good day to you all. Welcome to the new. I'm your host, Randy&April. So, happy Motivated Monday. Yes, it is Monday, April 5th, 2021. And I also want to say happy belated Resurrection Day to everyone as well. Yesterday was Easter Sunday, or better known as Resurrection Day, the day that Jesus Christ came back from the dead, rising from the grave, and returning our salvation to us, although we are very ungrateful for that. But anywho, I hope you all had a splendid weekend. Seriously, no doubt. But unfortunately, it's been a lot of turmoil over the weekend, and even going into the weekend last week. Starting off with a gentleman by the name of Noah Green. Decided to drive his car into the Capitol grounds barricade there in Washington, D.C. Got out the vehicle, wielding a knife, injured two of the police officers. One subsequently died from his injuries. But Noah Green, was shot and killed on the scene, and taken to the hospital and died at the hospital, but shot. And there was some buzz on some of on Facebook particularly, as to that this gentleman had some mental health issues. I'm not disputing that. Not anyone that's going to drive into the Capitol building or Capitol grounds to try to run over a barricade and have a knife. Not even bring a gun, a knife. You're crazy. So I don't dispute that. But, however, we're also quick to place blame, look for an excuse when people do erratic behavior like this. Now he was a allegedly, according to his social media accounts, this is his profile on the social media account there, he was a avid follower of the Nation of Islam and a loyal follower of Louis Farrakhan. So, was he radicalized? Maybe, perhaps. We never know. But nonetheless, I wanted to illustrate this story because he did go through the process of trying to get his name changed to Noah Zaim Muhammad. He failed in that process because he didn't show up to the court on his court date hearing to go through the process and everything. But I'm saying all that to say this: when we notice these things about people, their shift in I'm not gonna say a strange direction, but a radicalized direction in a sense, his family and his friends should have got a hold of him and said something. And we fail collectively as a society to do that. And I get it. We are a society of freedoms and liberties, and we can do and say what we like and please. However, there is a point where you kind of have to wheel people in and be like, hey, are you all right? Are you good? Because you tripping a little bit. We got to do that sometimes. And so unfortunately, 2 lives were lost in this tragic incident. And I think personally, it probably more than likely, just based on what I've been reading and seeing, it could have been prevented. So thoughts and prayers go out to everybody involved in that situation. But moving right along. You ever have family members where you get into such a beef with them that you or they decide to boot one of you out of the family? Yeah, I've experienced that. But over in Jordan, there is this contention going on right now. In the country of Jordan, there's this contention going on right now, this spat between family members. And this gentleman, let me fix that. There we go. This gentleman, he's a former Crown Prince. His name is Hamza, Prince Hamza. And he planned to destabilize the country of Jordan because of the spat between his sitting father, that's a king, and his other half-brother, who is also now the Crown Prince. He was booted out of the family, removed from being heir to the throne and everything else. Now, I was reading this story, and I said, I want to talk about this because it's funny how we in America, we look at, we have these situations, right, in society where we tend to want to overthrow people because of our differences and everything else, and we simply vote them out, and whatever the case may be. And in this particular situation, though, he solicits the help of people from other countries to help overthrow his own government. Now, in the United States, that is called treason, sedition, and that is a punishment by death type of thing. He's simply just on house arrest. Now, you can say white privilege. I say it's just royal privilege because he is still considered royalty. And the Prime Minister, Mr. Safadi, said that 20 additional other people were arrested in the conspiracy because they intercepted communications, which was labeled as 0 hour. So they had encrypted communications. They had plots for him and his wife to coordinate to get him a flight out of the country and everything else. But check out the media coverage on this story. It's pretty tripped out. Take a look.
Jordan's government is saying that its former crown prince, who claims he's under house arrest, has been involved in a plot that would have disrupted the country's security. The plot is said to involve an unnamed intelligence agency, and several high-profile figures have been detained. Prince Hamza, half-brother of King Abdullah, vehemently denied involvement in a video statement given to the BBC. His mother, former Queen Noor, is calling the allegations a, quote, wicked slander against her son, and on Twitter said she prays for justice for innocent victims. The unfolding crisis within the royal family is likely to damage Jordan's image as a pillar of stability in the Middle East. But several allies, including Britain, the United States, Saudi Arabia, and UAE, have released statements of support for King Abdullah. On Sunday, the deputy prime minister said Prince Hamza had been under investigation for some time and that a foreign intelligence service had contacted the prince's wife to organize a plane for them to leave the country. King Abdullah removed Prince Hamza from his position as heir to the throne in 2004 in a move that consolidated his power. Although he has been marginalized for years, Prince Hamza has angered authorities by forging ties with disgruntled figures within powerful tribes. Such groups have recently been calling for protests against perceived corruption in a country where unemployment has reached record levels.
What would you do if your child, if you're sitting royalty, and your child, no matter the age, conspired to have you and your government, and your country for that matter, overthrown? Would house arrest suffice? Would execution suffice? These are all questions that we have to ask ourselves as parents. I mean, you think about it in the relative terms that, you know, you may have teenage children or they're coming of age and they start to buck up against you and you're like, okay, you need to pack your stuff and go type of thing. But this is a little different. You're talking about a nation that you run and your child is trying to overthrow you. What would you do as a parent? And I'm really interested in your comments on that, your thoughts on that. So you're going to drop it in the commentary box there. I'll find it eventually. But more so, stay tuned. We're going to jump to a commercial break. We'll be right back. So keep it locked right here. We'll see you in a few minutes.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.
Hey, welcome back. So, during that little short commercial break just now, I got a Facebook notification that the show is being live streamed on Facebook and on YouTube. So, if you're blocked on Facebook from seeing the show, you can go to YouTube live on my channel, Randy&April, and catch the show there. But UMG blocked it for copyright, but sent me a message from last week's show that they released the copyright block. Anyways, I tell you, social media is crazy. But in more serious news, and this is going to be a somewhat of a deep dive today, and this is in respect to the issues going on with the Georgia voter law that they just recently passed. Now, there's a lot of conflation, a lot of conjecture surrounding the Georgia voter law. And I compiled a series of videos, interviews, and everything else surrounding the explanation and what's going on with this Georgia voter law. I even had an extensive debate yesterday on Facebook with some friends about the Georgia voter law, because the law is actually no different than the laws in other states. Anywho, but outside of that, this sportscaster by the name of where is it? Keith Olbermann called for the boycott of the Masters in Augusta, Georgia, as well. Now, I tell you, cancel culture is like straight up out of control. It really is. And when we think about it, you're sitting here calling for the cancellation of things that you don't agree with, but you can't really give an explanation or a reason really as to why. You just want to cancel stuff because you don't like it. Now, this is a very dangerous path to go down, and we've already been down this path throughout human history. That when somebody doesn't like something, they create a brigade of folks and divisions, and they go to war. Okay, and yeah, it's not a good idea. So, calling for and people are not realizing the second and third order effects to when they call for boycotts to things. Now, this guy calling for a boycott on the Masters golf tournament in Augusta, Georgia, to bring them into the political conversation that they have nothing to do with. They just playing golf. They don't care about a voter ID law. They don't care about who's being suppressed, oppressed, redressed. They don't care about any of that. They just want to play golf, get on with their day. But no, he wants to utilize his platform to call for the boycott of the Masters, just so they can be on the same bandwagon as the Major League Baseball. Now, I'll let him tell you in his own words.
This is Olbermann versus Confederate Georgia. Great. Now, boycott the Masters. Not only has Major League Baseball unexpectedly done exactly the right thing by moving its All-Star game out of Atlanta, but it has just as importantly opened the floodgates and put a target on the back of every major sports event, every major non-sports event, and every corporation doing business with Georgia. As an aside, when baseball announced this, thank goodness I was at a checkup in my cardiologist's office. The next big opportunity to do the right thing is Thursday, the Masters Golf Tournament. It's not likely they're going to move it out of Augusta, Georgia. The course was segregated there until 1990. The double meaning in a former slave state of Masters is also no coincidence. They will play that tournament, but that does not mean it has to count for anything, nor that it has to be shown on TV. The PGA Tour should declare that the Masters is not an official event and will not be recognized as a major tournament, and ESPN and CBS should not televise it, nor in Canada should the TSN network. Baseball acted quickly and decisively, and in so doing saved its celebration of Jackie Robinson Day on the 15th. The people behind the Masters don't give a damn about any of that, but the TV networks and the sponsors have to. It is against them that the pressure must build. More importantly, the light bulbs must tonight go off over the heads of many different groups. Georgia lawmakers, Georgia corporations still trying to talk their way out of this like Delta and Coke, Atlanta-based corporations who have said almost nothing like UPS, Home Depot, Arby's. Indeed, everybody opposed to the Georgia apartheid voting laws, everybody must realize now this is economic war. The goal now is to keep American money out of Georgia until the state repeals these laws and atones for them. Because Georgia is where the forces of fascism have chosen to start this fight. Laws like theirs have now been proposed by Trump acolytes in 42 other states. These monsters cannot be appeased, they must be broken. The next battlefield is Augusta, Georgia, April 8th. Boycott the Masters.
All right, Joe, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all heard that straight from his mouth. They want to create an economic war on the state of Georgia for election security, election integrity. No one has been able to really exactly point out exactly what is racist about the law. No one. They just keep talking around it. And I'm going to show you a series of videos to explain what I'm talking about here. And he also pointed out 40 other states are doing the same thing. I'm failing to see and failing to understand, and maybe somebody can enlighten me, where it is that it is racist to want to have election integrity, where it is racist to want to have your election properly done. There's already federal laws on the books that mandates that states have you show ID to vote. We already gone through the litany of things that you have to have an ID for. I did a post directly to Major League Baseball, to Delta Airlines, and to Coca-Cola. Ask them if they're serious about the solidarity that they're trying to show in support of this, in support of the minority community. Apparently, they're the only ones that can be affected by not being able to get an ID for some strange reason. That they should remove the requirement to have an ID to work in their facilities, to fly in their airlines, to buy tickets, to come into their stadiums, to purchase alcohol, cigarettes, whatever else at their venues. Remove the ID requirement then. If you're so certain, if you believe truly in this stance, then do that. Say, hey, we know we stand in solidarity with the minority, with the black minority, because only black people apparently are the subject to these laws that they can't get IDs to vote. But okay, we stand with the black community, and we're going to no longer require them to have IDs to patron our services. Do that. Let me know how that works out for you. Because you're full of stuff. Because you don't really care. You're pandering to the black community, to the emotional side of the black community, about these laws, which is in effect in all 50 states anyway. They're just revamping and tweaking some things. And like I said, no one has been able to point out what exactly is racist about these laws. You're telling me because you can't pass out water at a polling place, that's racist. I didn't know that only black people drink water or eat food at a polling place when they're standing in line to vote. Now, there is this thing called electioneering, and that is the practice of doing things to sway voters. It's illegal in all 50 states to some degree. You can't be within a certain amount of a certain distance in polling places, advertising, selling, talking, whatever, around the election, around voting. You can't do it. It's against the law. So me wearing a t-shirt that says vote Perham, and I don't say anything, I don't talk. I may be wearing a button, I may be wearing a hat, and I hand you a bottle of water. You're going to naturally look at something to identify my affiliation because I handed you a bottle of water. You're not just going to take a bottle of water from a stranger. You're not going to just be not paying attention. Oh, you get a bottle of water. You're not going to do that. You're going to look to see where you're getting it from. And you're going to see identifying markers and features. And it's going to stick to you when you walk into the booth. You'll say, you know what? I just saw Perham. Wow. I'm going to vote for that guy because he just gave me a bottle of water. That is illegal, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care how you try to twist it, but that is what electioneering is. You can't sit there and be on a bullhorn, outside the voting place saying vote for such and such, or talk about issues surrounding the elections, around politics. You can't do that kind of stuff. And that is one of the laws that people are actually crying about. And I say something simple. Bring your own water. Bring your own food. If you know you're going to stand in line somewhere for a long period of time, just like Black Friday, it's no different. You're going to bring your food. You're going to bring water. You're going to bring a chair. You're going to bring a sleeping bag to stand outside that store for hours on end, for days on end in some places, to get that sale. You can do the same thing when you want to go vote. Amazing, isn't it? I firmly believe that the only contention around Georgia and what's going on is that people fail to read. They fail to do their own research. They fail to actually apply common sense to what is being discussed. And it's a crying shame because we shouldn't even be having this conversation as a nation, or as Georgians, or as whoever. We shouldn't even be having this conversation. Just take the time to read it for yourself. 98 pages, Senate Bill 202 out of Georgia. You can skim through it. You ain't got to read every line. But you're relying on media who's plucking and pulling, and political activists who are plucking and pulling things to build a narrative. And you're like, yeah, you're right. And you're looking stupid in the process. Last couple of weeks, I have been on a crusade to talk about exactly what it is that's going on right now. We as minorities, particularly the black community, we are constantly being the subject of being political pawns when it comes to pushing political agendas and narratives that has essentially nothing to do with us. And I'm like, damn, why don't you people get it? Y'all know good and damn well you got an ID. You know good and damn well you can go register to vote. No matter what the laws are. Anything that you want to do in life, if you know that there are some kind of rules and regulations associated with it, you're going to do your due diligence in researching what it is you can and cannot do surrounding whatever it is that you're trying to go do. You know this. So why are we playing this game? Why are we feeding into this narrative? Folks, I digress. Like, seriously, I digress. I am going to show you exactly what it is that I'm talking about and how this whole cancel culture thing is starting to turn on its face and bite the left square dead on the ass. And it's making them look foolish. Take a look.
I'm Stacey Abrams. I wanted to take a moment to update you on what's happening in Georgia and across the country. Thanks to the efforts of activists like you, we stopped Georgia Republicans from passing key parts of their voter suppression wish list. Weekend voting, and specifically souls to the polls, disproportionately used by Black Georgians, remain in place. Georgia voters will continue to be able to vote by mail regardless of their reason for doing so. And eligible Georgians will continue to be automatically registered to vote when they obtain their driver's licenses, unless they opt out. Unlike some, though, I won't sugarcoat this. Senate Bill 202 is a power-grabbing and voter criminalizing suppression bill that is nothing less than Jim Crow 2.0. This Republican-passed legislation was rushed through with an unprecedented speed to avoid public scrutiny. The bill makes it a crime to show compassion by offering a bottle of water or a snack to a voter or their child waiting in line. And the bill makes it much easier to challenge Georgians' right to vote. State House Republicans seized power over the state election board and gave themselves the authority to remove county election officials who don't do their bidding. They placed limits on access to drop boxes, shortened the time frame to request a mail ballot, and more. At a time when Georgia ranks as the worst state in the nation for COVID vaccination rates, Georgia Republicans instead were laser focused on reviving Georgia's dark past of racist voting laws. Their efforts, based on the lies of conspiracy theorists and Capitol insurrectionists, are shameful. Sadly, as they learned from Jim Crow voting laws before, you don't have to explicitly exclude voters by race, but you can make sure people of color are clearly the target. It worked before, and they're counting on it working again. But we know from recent elections in Georgia that the way to overcome voter suppression is to vote. We must hold Republicans accountable by voting them out. I understand the passion of those calling for boycotts of Georgia following the passage of SB 202. Boycotts have been an important tool throughout our history to achieve social change. But here's the thing. Black, Latino, AAPI, and Native American voters whose votes are the most suppressed under SB 202 are also the most likely to be hurt by potential boycotts of Georgia. To our friends across the country, please do not boycott us. And to my fellow Georgians, stay and fight, stay and vote. Make no mistake though, we must also hold corporations accountable for their silence in this debate. We must demand they speak out against the more than 250 voter suppression bills in 43 states across the country. Let me make it plain. We see 3 steps companies should take to ensure the constitutional right to vote is real for all Americans, especially voters of color. First, corporations in Georgia and across America must use their full clout to support the voting rights protected in the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. This is vital to ensure that Americans have access to our democracy and that access doesn't depend on the state in which you live. Both of these bills are critical and not interchangeable. Second, companies must help address the lack of photo ID in our state and anywhere else where it comes up. It is estimated that 200,000 Georgians do not have a photo ID. And the so-called free state ID is not free when the hours to access it are limited, transportation is difficult, and the documents needed are expensive for the poor and they're hard to find. Companies must fund verified efforts to get these Georgians a photo ID. Third and finally, companies should be honest about the reality of voter suppression in Georgia and around the country. Long lines are just one example. Numerous studies have shown that these lines are in predominantly Black and brown communities. Likewise, limits on vote by mail, early voting, and registration are being proposed right now across the country, emboldened by Georgia to do whatever they like to voters they don't like. We need corporations to get off the fence and speak up in states still considering this coordinated attack on voting rights. We need Congress to take federal action to fix these harms through the For the People Act. And we need them to ensure that Georgia and other states must pre-clear attacks on voting rights with the passage of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Together, these actions will mitigate the harm of the horrible bill here in Georgia and the onslaught around the country. This is what corporate responsibility looks like in the insurrection era. The big lie fomented by a major political party that is nothing less than a contemporary Jim Crow. We cannot stand by. We must take action. So let's keep supporting Georgia voters and Georgia workers. And as we do, corporate leaders can show that they stand with us, the voters. Please go to stopjimcrow2.com to find out how you can continue the fight for free and fair elections in Georgia and around the country.
All right, folks, back to our road, my uncle.
So, what you just witnessed, ladies and gentlemen, is an explicit call to action by Stacey Abrams to pressure corporations to step in and help support the ability and the rights for people in America to just freely vote wherever and whenever they want without ID. She said it. If you go back and listen, that they should be able to just show up and vote. Now, we all know what that means. Black community has nothing to do with that. 200,000 Georgians are, she says, are without ID, without some form of ID. The question is why? If you know this information, why are you not putting together a concerted campaign to get buses, to get Uber drivers, build up the economy, get these same corporations to pay for these facilities, to have the staffing, to have the resources to get access to these people, to get IDs, to get licenses and everything else, bring them to these facilities to get processed and everything else. If you were so certain about what it is that you're talking about, if you're so concerned, rather, about what's going on with these people that lack IDs, I just gave you a solution. Instead of calling on these corporations and these companies to pool, this is what they're doing now. They're boycotting. They're not even putting money into your community anymore because you made this stink about their about the law, that you didn't even point to what was the problem with the law. You just gave some ambiguities around it and saying that, and I saw what you did there, pretty clever. You pointed to the AAPI and the Native Americans, into that, you lump them into with minorities. Come on, folks. I may be some dumb, but I ain't plumb dumb.
All right, but we got to begin with the news here. And the growing showdown between Republicans and big business over the GOP's efforts to change voting laws in the wake of the 2020 election. Major League Baseball has announced it is pulling this year's All-Star game from Georgia over one such law in the state. So let's remind folks about what that law does. It shrinks the window for sending absentee ballots, severely limits the number of ballot drop boxes, and gives more control of local elections to state lawmakers who are majority Republican. It also makes it a crime to give water or food to people waiting in line to vote. There are also less controversial elements like expanding early voting so that there are at least 17 days to cast a vote, and it can go up to 19 days if counties choose to offer 2 Sundays of voting. The bill also requires that when lines are longer than 1 hour, counties must send more staff and machines out. A number of big businesses in Georgia, though, including Delta and Coca-Cola, have criticized the law, leading Republicans to threaten retaliation. For more on all of this, we are joined now by Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. Mayor Bottoms, good morning to you. Complicated morning for you, I imagine, because this is somewhat divided Democrats. On the one hand, you've got Joe Biden, President Biden, supporting the move by Major League Baseball. But Stacey Abrams, prominent Democrat in the state, says while she commends Major League Baseball, she's disappointed about the impact this move could have on families there in the Atlanta area. Where are you on this morning?
Well, first of all, good morning, and thank you for having me. You know, this is a tough one. The metro Atlanta economy is the 10th largest economy in the nation. And so when you talk about boycotts in and around Atlanta and the state as a whole, it's impacting small businesses. It impacts corporations that hire not just corporate officers, but administrative assistants, people who clean up the building, work in the cafeteria. And so I respect the decision. I understand the decision, but I don't like the fact that we have been put in this position by our state legislature and our governor because the people of Georgia will suffer.
Yeah, Mayor Bottoms, you've said that other dominoes may fall as a result of this law in your state. Have you heard from other companies who have already signaled that they're not going to do business in Atlanta or in the state of Georgia because of it?
Well, I do know that there are other large-scale events that are openly contemplating whether or not they will stay in our state. Tourism is one of the largest industries in our state. Delta Airlines is one of the largest employers in our state. So this will have a devastating impact. And the irony of it is that we were opened up early under the name of getting back to some type of economic recovery. And with just one signature, that's all been wiped out. And so it's not too late for the governor and the legislators to go back, do something differently. They can go back in January. They can fix this very broken and ill-conceived law, or they could perhaps can even go into special session over the next few months and make tweaks that will allow us to continue to be the open and welcoming state that we claim to be.
Well, the governor, Mayor Bottoms, good to see you. The governor and the Republicans in your state legislature do not appear to be backing down. They say they are standing firm. Are you worried that this will now backfire against your state and your city?
I'm absolutely concerned that this will backfire. This is the first of likely many events that we will see pull from our city and from our state. And also, again, we are home to almost 30 Fortune 500 companies in the metropolitan Atlanta area, an area that voted very heavily Democrat back in November and in January. And so it's unfortunate. We've had laws contemplated in the past that people have threatened boycotts, but we've also had governors in the past who vetoed those laws. And this governor has chosen not to do so. Instead, he's doubled down.
So Mayor, how would you like corporations and businesses to respond to this issue?
Well, what you've seen is a response from corporations and businesses.
But it's hurting the city potentially. So what, if anything, would you like them to do?
Well, just what corporations have done. They have spoken out and said that they support access to open voting. And that this law is not a good law for our state as a whole. I think that at this point, that is all they can do. But there is, well, actually, there's a little more. I know many corporations have already said that they will not support candidates with financial support who supported this law. And so it looks like it's going to be a very long and painful fight all the way around. But again, there's an opportunity to fix this. You have to know when to hold, you have to know when to fold. This is hurting our state, the economy of our state, and that's not good for anyone, no matter what side of the aisle you are on.
Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, thank you very much for being with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Bring in now Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, who's at the center of a firestorm right now. Governor, so happy to have you this morning. As everyone who's watching knows by now, Major League Baseball has elected to yank its All-Star game out of the city of Atlanta in response to your new voter integrity bill. That bill has been painted. It has been smeared as a voter suppression bill, and that has caused many corporations, not just Major League Baseball, from Delta and Coca-Cola to Major League Baseball, to say that Georgia has embarked on a process of voter suppression and they will not be in business with the state of Georgia. What is your reaction to that?
Well, it's unfortunate that Major League Baseball has caved to the cancel culture. And quite honestly, President Biden and Stacey Abrams and a lot of other people are simply lying about this bill to pressure these organizations. It's really a sad day for Major League Baseball. As somebody that grew up playing baseball as a kid and a fan, played in high school, you know, big Braves fan. I mean, this is terrible for the organization. It's terrible for the fans. It's terrible for the small business owners in the Metro Atlanta community in our state that was looking forward to hosting this game, and it put a lot of resources into it, all because of a big lie. I mean, this bill does not suppress anything. In fact, New York, where Major League Baseball is headquarters, you know, their voting laws are more restrictive when it comes to early voting than Georgia's are. We have 17 days of in-person early voting. New York has 10. This bill adds the opportunity for people potentially to vote on 2 optional Sundays, which would give potentially some counties 19 days. Are we boycotting them because they're in New York? No. This is just a cancel culture, and I will tell you, the people at home should be scared because their ball game is next. Their business will be next. Their way of life will be next. It is time to stand up and fight this and just say, look, we are not going to take this anymore. It's ridiculous.
Governor, how does the lie get so big so fast? Take the CEO of Delta, for example, who initially said, hey, this has some reasonable things in it, and then the mob descends and he's changed his position. So how does the lie echo and grow so insidiously?
Well, it certainly doesn't help when you have the President of the United States saying that and nobody in the national media at least in the mainstream media, will even ask for a correction when he simply lies, gets four Pinocchios of all people, of all places, from the Washington Post. I mean, that should tell you right there, he's not being truthful. He continues to lie and mislead about what the bill does. It actually adds opportunities for people to vote. It secures ballot drop boxes that were never in the law before we passed this legislation, requires continuous counting, simply uses a voter ID, which is free in Georgia. We've been using for in-person voting since the mid-2000s for absentees, since we had 350% increase in mail ballots this election to help the county elections officials be more efficient and be more secure and take an arbitrary process out. I mean, how is that suppression? It is not. It's just a buzzword that they use. Then they go to the CEOs and the corporate boardrooms and they browbeat these people to falling under pressure, and that's exactly what's happened.
Governor,
none of them are citing specifics in the bill. If you'll notice, they're just saying, you know, this is a step backwards, or, you know, this is wrong, or whatever. Like, none of them are pointing to specifics in the bill because they know damn well their people were in the Capitol working with us on the bill. They knew what was in it, and now their position has changed.
Right. They just say Jim Crow, and they don't explain.
That's right.
Former President Trump has weighed in. He said baseball's already losing tremendous numbers of fans, and now they leave Atlanta with their all-star game because they are afraid of the radical left Democrats who do not want voter ID, which is desperately needed to have anything to do with, doesn't have anything to do with our elections. Boycott baseball and all of the woke companies that are interfering with free and fair elections. Are you listening, Coke, Delta, and all? Do you agree with what the president is saying, that conservatives, those who care about free and fair elections, should boycott Delta and Coke and any other companies that weigh in on this or interfere in Georgia's elections?
Well, I think the president, like me, is very frustrated at this cancel culture, not only with this, but many other things that have gone on. The thing that's unfortunate about this, the Atlanta Braves organization doesn't support this change. Mm-hmm. They're very upset about this. They're upset for their fans and their small business owners that are at the Battery at Truist Park that were looking forward to having, you know, big crowds at the game, patronizing their small businesses. That's who this is going to hurt. And I've had people telling me, look, we're canceling our tickets to the Braves. And I said, look, don't be mad at the Braves. They do not support this decision. And they're like, forget it. Guilt by association. We can't do it because of Major League Baseball. You know, that's what's so sad about this. And even Democrats are coming out saying how wrong it is to move the game. This helps nothing to further discussion. You know, what Major League Baseball should do if they have an issue with a provision in the bill, they should simply talk to me about it, because I'd be glad to do it. They have yet to do that. They have yet to bring up one thing that is actually in the bill that they're mad about. It's just that it's not worth it. The pressure's too great. You know, Stacey Abrams and the White House, you know, they're just done with it. And that's what's wrong with the country right now. But we have to stand up and fight. And I can tell you that I'm going to continue to do that.
So to be clear, Governor, there have been no specific demands of you on how to change this bill. There's been no specific problems, as you pointed out earlier, that have been illustrated or laid out for you. Simply the characterization of it being Jim Crow 2.0 voter suppression has been used as a cudgel to browbeat corporations. That's the end of the story, the beginning and the end of the story?
Well, if you look at Jim Crow 2.0, the domain name was registered, you know, weeks ago, before anybody even knew what was going to be in the final version of the bill. I think the playbook for this was written over a month ago because the left and the radicals, Stacey Abrams, including President Biden, obviously his team didn't even know what was in the bill. I think they thought it was going to be suppressive and it was going to be bad. But, you know, the end result was not, because it went through the process. We worked with the House, the Senate, with reasonable people, got things in there to provide even more access, but also just make sure that in Georgia it's easy to vote and hard to cheat. And I guess they don't agree with that. But none of the statements from Delta, Coca-Cola, or Major League Baseball that I have seen cite one single thing in this legislation that we need to fix. And if there is something, you know, bring it on. Let's talk about it. But this thing has been worked on for 4 or 5 months now, and none of these people have said anything. The issues that they did say something about at the end of the day, didn't end up in the bill, which is how the process is supposed to work.
Yeah, of course. It's
all
just
so sad for baseball fans that the league has now made baseball in the United States of America so political.
Putting fans in an impossible place, having to turn their back on a game they love because, as we pointed out, and you pointed out, Governor, it's become all political. Maybe Atlanta, though, should just change their name to Beijing, Governor, because ultimately Major League Baseball has no problem with working with China, which is a point that Tom Cotton recently pointed out. So Major League Baseball expanded their partnership with China in 2017. Tom Cotton tweeted this, saying, "Hey, MLB, how many days of early voting are allowed in China?" So why is the left so willing to give a pass to authoritarians or even states that have more restrictive voting laws than yours, but they come down on Georgia?
Well, I think it's a bigger agenda, and I certainly appreciate Senator Cotton, Senator Rubio, and others weighing in and calling these companies out and calling the league out, because that's what they have gotten themselves into. They are in a no-win situation now because they're subjecting themselves to be, nitpicked everywhere they do business. And the same can be said for Delta and Coca-Cola. New York, New Jersey, wherever it is they're flying or selling or whatever, compare that to Georgia. And look, I have said for over a decade that I believe in the Constitution that the state should decide how elections are run. And this is what this is all about. This is a political play by the president and Stacey Abrams and a lot of other people that want H.R. 1 to pass. It's an unconstitutional power grab to federalize elections and not allow the states like ours to let their elected General Assembly decide how you vote. In California, if they want to do all mail voting, that's fine. If they don't want to have a photo ID requirement, that is certainly their right. If they want to have same-day registration, they can do that. I personally think that's bad for secure elections, even though ours are very accessible. But it's to the states to decide that, not the federal government. And that is what this is about. It's the power play for H.R. 1.
Governor Brian Kemp, thank you so much for getting up with us this morning.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard three different sides, three different point of views. And I did that successfully, kind of on purpose. But open voting, what does that mean? Like, seriously. I'm not being facetious. I'm not being funny or any of that. What is defined as open voting? Are you telling me that you're advocating for anybody and everybody to vote anytime, anywhere? You're saying that, yes, if I see an election going on, I should be able to just walk right up and get a ballot, fill it out, put it in the box, or give it to the clerk or whoever, and go get back in my car and say I'm driving 200 miles into the next state, and there's some voting going on. No, go over and vote and get the ballot. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be misled on this term open voting because I really don't understand what that entails, because I am envisioning chaos with that. You're telling me that we should not enforce having identification, pre-registration, identification, and a verification process to vote. If that is what I am hearing, you're out of your damn mind. Because that's just going to lead to you're going to have an inundation of ballots in every election. No one will be able to determine the winner of anything because everybody and their mama is going to vote 4, 5, 10 times to ensure that their candidate of choice wins, because it is an open election and anybody and everybody can vote. That makes no sense. It should be restrictive. As long as you take the time, yes, I'm sorry, it requires pre-planning on your part. If you're saying that the window to request absentee ballots has been shrunken, okay. Identify the date, mark it on your calendar, 10, 20, 30 days out. Hey, let me request for my absentee ballot. Boom. Make sure I get my ID, my address, and everything is current. Boom. Request. Get your stuff. Fill it out. Drop it back in the mail. Keep it moving. I fail to really, I truly, because I've been doing absentee ballot for my state for the last 5, 6 years now. I go on the website, I look at the requirements, I print out the request form every election cycle, I fill it out by hand, and I scan it and email it back, or I drop it in the mail. It just depends on what's going on. And no problem. I get my new voter registration card in the mail that indicates, my jurisdictions for voting and all that good stuff. Never had a problem. They see my my driver's license information in the system. They see that it's current. They see that I put in the address change requests and everything else. No problem. I just did a ballot last week for the mayoral in school board elections. Sent it back. I'm truly failing to understand why people have a frustration, and I'm not talking about the little nuances of people out in the rural areas. That could be fixed. I'm not talking about the handicap. That could be fixed. Access for those people can be fixed. That's a simple coordination of getting buses, cars, or whatever, identifying who these people are, and getting them the help that they need. That's a simple fix. I'm talking about the general walking, talking, you're perfectly, mobile population. There's no excuse. I'm sorry. Don't tell me about no damn, it costs too much for ID. 10, 20 bucks. Tops. You spend that on cigarettes and alcohol probably, or at the club. So please miss me with it's too expensive. They even say it was free. Can browbeat the corporations to provide funding, a pot. And until it runs out, people can come and get IDs, and it's paid for out of that pot. How about that? See, I'm a solutions kind of guy. You tell me a problem and you can't figure out a solution for yourself, I'm going to give you a solution. You may not like it, but it's a solution. It's a way. That's how I roll, ladies and gentlemen. I've always been that way. So I'm hard pressed. Like I said, even Governor Kemp, I agree 100% with Governor Kemp. Tell me what the problem is. We can sit down and come up with a solution. You can't, because there is no problem. You just want to be able to push an agenda by utilizing black people or minorities to say that something is racist or something isn't right because you can't have your way to have expanded voting to allow any and everybody to vote to secure an assured victory. Now, so another commentator pointed out a while back that Stacey Abrams is on this activism trip because she realized that if she attempts to run for governor again, she's going to probably lose again because a predominant base of the black community did not vote for her the last election she ran in. That's a realization. That was a realization for her. So why not expand the voter base in hopes to drown out those black conservatives that's in Georgia, those black AAPI conservatives, those Hispanic conservatives, drown them out by allowing this flood of illegal immigrants that's coming in that's going to get bussed into Atlanta, bussed into Dallas, like they're being right now. That's what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry, I let the cat out of the bag. Hey, you heard it here first, kind of. But that is all I got for you all today. I appreciate you all tuning in. I am out of time. I have fun. But you can pick up my book, The New You, Now Equipped with Wisdom, on Amazon on eKindle format. You can also go to www.tecntv.com and catch the rest of my colleagues' shows throughout the day, evening, weekends. We have movies we play on Saturday and Sundays. You check those out as well. If you want to support my campaign for Congress, you can go to www.rperm4us.com, and you can follow me on all the social media platforms and everything else. It's all laid out on the website. Thank you all. We'll catch you all on Friday, God willing. God bless. See you later. Take it easy. Be safe.
You are listening to the Exceptional Conservative Network. For more information, go to www.theexceptionalconservativeshow.com.